How hot do the Chargers look right now, baby? Scorching hot. So hot, it blasted my face off. Ow.
Want to watch football without the restrictions of blackouts or cable? Check out expressvpn.com to help you get access to all the live games. Sign up today using the link in the description to get 3 free months.
Go to Boat Fam, it's the director. Chargers fans, I gotta tell you, man, what a freaking epic weekend of Chargers training camp football, man. That was one of the wildest weekends I've had in a very long time. You Boat Fam out there, the diehard Boat Club, shout out to everybody that we were hanging out with out there. You guys certainly know how to show a director a good time. And that was among already the hype of what we were witnessing at training camp, the Chargers. Looking like a brand new team under new leadership, showing off new skills and talents and systems and traits, like everything about what the Chargers showed me at least this weekend. Puts us in a pretty good direction to be a fairly successful team in 2024. And you guys could probably guess I'm being a bit modest here. Being in the presence of the Chargers and watching the way that they are handling things, handling business, and growing the Jim Harbaugh team and system has brought up a lot of confidence in me. And that's what I wanted to give you guys a little taste of is what some of my biggest takeaways were from training camp. Of course, you guys know I attended training camp Wednesdays 2 through 4, so Thursday through Friday, and I got to see firsthand a lot of the things that we have been hearing about and talking about. You know, there's a lot of speculation that goes on around, Twitter and Instagram and different articles. Well, here's some things that I got to see for myself and give you guys impressions of things that I had firsthand witness to, so it should be a pretty good time, man. Before we do kick things off, shout out to the sponsor, Underdog Fantasy. Use code DIRECTOR to match your first deposit up to $250. Newcomers, take a look at the special on screen. I think that one's for tonight. Before we do kick off, hit us up with a like and sub. If you do enjoy this Chargers content, the small amount of time you guys take to hit the like, sub, bell notification helps me out a lot. Let's get into it, baby. Lights, camera. Ow.
Action!
Who's got it better than us?
Into the end zone, Charger fans are witnesses to history!
My biggest takeaways from my in-person trip to Chargers training camp week 1. What's that? Huh? I got something on my face? Oh my God, Bolt fam. Nobody told me. I'm sure not a single comment has made its way towards giving me their concern to what's going on the forehead today. Bros. Okay, I'll say this. Everybody going to training camp the next couple of weeks, please. Definitely the reapplication rule is one that should not be ignored when it comes to sunscreen. I got trapped outside more time than I thought, and poor little director with the same, I would say, skin conditions of a newborn baby. A naked mole rat was left to the elements to suffer and die, leaving me scarred and deformed. You guys are seeing base like 3 or 4 of recovery here, man. But despite all that, dude, what an epic weekend. I wanted to again say personally thank you to everybody so much for your hospitality and all the fun and all the relationships and all the people that I met out there. Thank you. I couldn't possibly name everybody that approached me and shared their love for what I do and the support what I do, guys. Again, thank you to everybody. It was an epic night at Rock and Brews on Saturday, and getting to meet everybody at camp and everything. Shout out to Diehard Boat Club, to Gooch, to everybody. Again, I couldn't possibly do shout outs because I can't cover all that ground, man. You guys are absolutely fantastic. Thank you for showing this guy a good time and bringing all the hype and love to me and my platform, and for that particular weekend, man, it was absolutely stellar. So as we go along this video, guys, I'm going to try inserting as much footage as possible because, yeah, I got to take some awesome footage. Again, shout out to Jerry. Got us into the VIP tent the first day. Probably the best footage I took all camp. Let me pass it on to you guys. Show you guys and reinforce some of the points I want to make in this video because, yeah, I think seeing is believing. Or if you're Patrick Mahomes, believing is seeing. Or was it backwards? I don't know. Either way, we'll show you guys some proof in the pudding in order to get some of these points across here, man. And again, being in person at training camp, this was one that was particularly important to me because of what you're seeing right here. The Jim Harbaugh era is beginning something very special for this franchise and for this team, man. I've been a Chargers fan a long time now. I've lived through the ups and downs, the excitement of Phillip Rivers and the disappointments of, coaching and the McCoys and stuff like that. Like, I've been there. I've been around, man. This feels like something way different than the normal rinse, repeat, and reset kind of, we'll call it an algorithm, right, for the Chargers season that I've ever seen. It feels completely new. A big point in making that is I don't know if I've been as confident in our run game as I have been since, LT. And of course, nothing will ever touch the LT days. But it feels like for the first time in a long time, we're going to hand off the football, and I'm not going to be sweating bullets as to what's going to happen. Are we going to get more than 2 yards of carry, as a whole in the season? It just feels brand spanking new. And Jim Harbaugh and his success rate and what he's done over and over and over in his career, and bringing success to these clubs that were otherwise not successful. It just feels like such a great opportunity for me as a fan. Like, let's put aside the YouTube channel for a second, but me as a fan to go out there and absorb as much as freaking possible, because this only happens once. Right? Maybe once in a lifetime, once in a generation for Chargers fans, or even NFL team fans, right? It only happens every so often that a radical change, revolved around data and specifics of good and success like Jim Harbaugh has shown. It only happens every once in a while, and I did not want to miss it as a fan. And one of the big things, we'll start, again, a little bit late into the video, apologize for that, but one of the biggest things that I wanted to point out in some of my biggest takeaways is this first segment right here, Championship Boot Camp. We heard a lot about how the Chargers like to do things, right? We heard a lot about how Jim Harbaugh specifically likes to do things and how it's different from other training camps, right? The precautions, the protocol, tuck your shirt in, something we hear a lot as Chargers fans, right? And it's all there. It's all true, right? I saw it. I got to live it. I got to see it. As a matter of fact, there were times where I was trying to shut up because I was like, man, they're really operating out there like a surgeon, right? They need that concentration. There's no BS. And like, it felt so, attention to detail, right? Everything was so well put together and well planned. It felt like every single minute was being utilized to maximum potential out there. It was fantastic to see. And one thing that you do see in a lot of training camps that you didn't see with the Chargers was the music, the vibe, the kind of party. Let's have fun with it, right? You see that everywhere. The Chargers, no, there was no music. There was no, goofing off. There was very much so, let's get down to business. Let's get serious and let's focus in. Let's harness this next 2 hours every day to get the maximum potential out of every moment we have training together, practicing together. And me as a fan, getting to watch that gave me a great amount of respect for the way Jim Harbaugh does business. And that's kind of what it felt like. This is a business. We're out here to win a championship. We do things a certain way. We build the team a certain way. We go out there with a certain attitude, a certain mantra. We're going to get results. And I got to see that firsthand. I got to see Jim Harbaugh and the way that he likes to coach, his interactions with his players. There's a lot of love out there and respect out there between coach and player and pretty much everybody out there on the football field that weekend. It just felt like everybody was in sync. And as a Chargers fan, I mean, again, this is the first training camp I've gone to, especially in the Jim Harbaugh era. It was very noticeable, and it's not something I was going out like, hey, let's see how they do. I got this little page saying, let's see how the boot camp vibes are. I was like, no, it's just something that naturally dropped itself in my lap because I was like, this is something else. This is going to be something new, and it's very exciting to see the Chargers rounding this new corner. Next up, okay, we got to move. We're already 8 minutes into this video. Okay, let's move. Next biggest takeaway. And this is something that quite honestly got me so pumped. If you wanted to see annoyed Chargers fans at some points, no, they were hype. You should have seen, being next to me when Ladd McConkley was out there tearing it up, pass after pass, drive after drive. I was losing my mind, man. I was going bananas because everything leading up to that point of me sitting in those bleachers and watching Ladd McConkley get to work, it was maximum hype in my love and belief of what he could become, even well before the Chargers drafted him in the second round. It all came down to that for me in that moment, and I was absolutely going insane. Now, Ladd McConkley had an absolutely fantastic camp. I don't know how much footage I got on the first day I was there, but I'll tell you what, I think the Saturday day I was there, he went nuclear, man. This dude was going nuts. And there was a couple of different catches that showed off his speed and his route running that were very exciting. But in particular, one that happened literally right in front of us was Justin Herbert escaping the pocket. And it looked like everybody was pretty locked down. I was like, he's going to have to throw this away. Let's not take the sack. But then out of nowhere came number 15 to save the day. He jumps up and nabs that ball out of the air. Touchdown Chargers. Lightning Lad is on the board. And you know what? That to me, yes, I was losing my mind and I was so excited. And it was such a fire, clip to put on YouTube and Twitter or whatever. But beside the point, something that I had, I wish I had time to be turn to the camera, like office interview style, be like, this is what was happening in my mind at that moment. Well, here that is, okay? In that moment, I thought to myself, finally, improvisers. What I mean by that is Justin Herbert is the kind of quarterback that has the ability to escape the pocket, extend plays, right? He's able to find success where there is none available. And what I mean by that is everybody's covered, wide receivers, everybody, it just feels like there's no options to succeed. But when you've got a Robin to your Batman that is on the same wavelength, hey, I'm looking, I'm covered, we got to find a way to improvise and give Justin a chance to convert, a chance to score. And to me, in that moment, Ladd McConkey coming out of nowhere, it told me, I know that wasn't his route. What was it, was it a deep zig? A deep, late developing zig? No, it was him looking at his environment, looking at what was breaking down and saying, I'm going to go out there and make myself available. And Ladd McConkey and Justin Herbert, if they can continue to build that repertoire, to build that relationship and that chemistry, that is something you see in a lot of teams that are very successful in terms of wide receiver quarterback duo. Patrick Mahomes sees that a lot with his wide receivers. Lamar Jackson sees that a lot because he's scrambling all the time. You want to see that in an offense, especially between two or three particular players that are like, hey, let's keep this going. Don't just run your route every time. Put in the extra work to separate yourself and make yourself available in situations where it looks like I'm going to be, unavailable for Justin Herbert or the drive is dying or stalling. No, it's not over till the whistle's blown. Let's get out there and give Justin Herbert a shot at this. And that play signified so much for me. Then he did it again, a couple of plays later. Not so much in terms of being, improvising himself open, but, that speed was on display. I wasn't quite sure if it was a touchdown, but it looked like it was from my end. Completely beating his coverage. Justin Herbert and him really finding a lot of chemistry, a lot of trust in one another by the time we got to Saturday. So that was especially exciting. One of my favorite parts in all of camp watching the players was watching Justin Herbert and Ladd McConkey operate. This is for real. And this to me, guys, again, a couple of clips, I don't know how much I'm going to be able to find and put in there and organize, but what I saw out there, it felt like a wide receiver one and quarterback relationship. There was another wide receiver that I do feel like does kind of have that as well. But something is going on between Herbert and Ladd McConkey. There's going to be something pretty big there in the future that gives us a lot of confidence in the Chargers' passing attack. McConkey is for real. He is for real. Now, speaking of which, a lot of Chargers fans were messaging me, or at least tagging me and stuff, over the weekend wanting to see something from Joe Alt. And to them, I had the response of, it's going to be tough because we didn't have, your full pads on. And it was not that week for training camp where you're going to see those huge, Joey Bosa versus rookie Joe Alt moments because they didn't have pads on, right? And despite that, however, because again, I wanted to set the bar to a realistic measure. We're not going to see that full translation quite yet. But despite that, I can say in the time that I was watching 76 in particular, especially when they were out doing individual drills and stuff, or not when they were broken up, I can say that Joe Alt did look good to me. And I think it was especially requested because there's a lot of clips right now going on about Malik Neighbors having a good camp, which is great, right? Which is great. Let's not focus on that though. Let's focus on what we got going on. And I know it's easy to compare and to start weighing things this early, but trust me when I say it is so early right now. We've got Ladd McConkey, who's got some crazy, highlights as well. It's not like we don't have weapons out there. And we need to let this offensive line marinate, right? And our first round rookie, who's not playing a skill position, to wow us over time with his consistency. I think that's the biggest thing that an offensive lineman will impress you with over time that maybe goes underappreciated. Why these are the unsung heroes, the consistency. And that's what I saw in Joe Alt, right? Yeah, he wasn't out there, rock solid every single down, but he was doing really well, especially when lined up at right tackle. We were kind of hoping to see some consistency in a different position. Like, he looked great to me. He looked huge. He looked powerful. He looked extremely fast for his size. I was thoroughly impressed with Joe Alt, even though we weren't in an environment where I can get that full sample size. Now, I will say, later on in camp, Joe Alt was lining up on the left side a lot because of course, we'll get to it in a second, Rashawn Slater having to exit a little bit early. I think it was Friday evening. And in that instance as well, he looked just as consistent, right? And it tells me that the transition to right tackle is something that he's doing very well. He plays left tackle very good. I got to see that with my own two eyes, but when he was on the right side previous, it felt pretty much very similar to those other reps. So all I'll say is that Joe Alt looks good. Today is the first full padded practice in which we're going to start to see real sample sizes of that. And on Wednesday, which is I'm anticipating being my next video, I'll be able to give you guys much more of an in-depth look of what I think of Joe Alt, with some reps and full pads under his belt. But for right now, I'll say he looks good. He's off to a great start. I got to see his size and his freakish speed with that size on full display in person, and that our first round pick is nowhere near worry category right now. We just got to still wait and see how things unfold where it counts a little bit more in camp. All right, next up, Justin Herbert is still Justin Herbert. I don't know, man. I've been to a few Chargers games. I've seen Justin Herbert do some incredible things in person before, but watching Justin Herbert in an environment where he has the opportunity to really show off, right? There's no, in some cases in these drills, there's no edge rushers, barreling down on him. There's a wide receiver that's not covered. Like, let's really unleash it and see what he's got. And man, dude, some of those, we call them H-bombs around here, some of those deep passes by Justin Herbert, things of beauty. Like, that is defining to as perfect of a pass as I can ever see and witness, right? It gobsmacked me, honestly. And we got to see a little bit of it in action too during some of those drives with, of course, the one with Ladd McConkley, et cetera. But Justin Herbert is something special. And I got to see in the offense that Greg Roman and Jim Harbaugh are trying to create here. I got to see Justin Herbert still do all the things that we love about Justin Herbert. Developing the deep ball seemed like a pretty big thing too. Like, I actually asked Marcus Brady that question personally back in April. Like, we're trying to, satisfy the fans in terms of, the deep game, getting, the speed wideouts, plus Justin Herbert's big arm. Do we have, plans to see that more consistently? And I saw it in camp. I saw the play action being developed. I saw Justin Herbert, like we saw with McConkley, scrambling, buying time, finding those new speedy weapons. It was beautiful. It was great. It was complemented by a pretty good running attack. The blocking was superb. The offensive line play was superb. And all of that added up to Justin Herbert being able to do what he already was so good at, but better. That makes sense? All of this supporting cast for Justin Herbert has elevated what was already a fantastic quarterback into a crazy quarterback, an elite quarterback. Sure, there was drives where we're taking the 3, or the receiver dropped it, or Justin Herbert overthrew him. But for the most part, as a Chargers fan that's watched Justin Herbert every snap since he was drafted to the Chargers in 2020, and now, extra work in camp and everything, Justin Herbert is the same Justin Herbert, and he's going to be utilized beautifully. And we are going to see a very nice passing game from this team. And he's got weapons. We talked about Ladd McConkley. Here's another one, Josh Palmer. To me, in the first 2 days, I would have told you that Josh Palmer absolutely is going to be wide receiver 1 for this team. Based on my exposure there. Palmer was great. He was lining up everywhere. He was catching everything thrown at him. He's got great hands. He was getting open. He had great separation. Everything, every box was ticked by Josh Palmer. In terms of a reliable, solid wide receiver. And to me, I feel like that's going to spell a lot of confidence from Justin Herbert in the season. You're going to see a good player in Josh Palmer this year. Okay? But I will say that Ladd McConkley at this time is challenging him. He really is. I I honest to God think that Lad McConkley, there's going to be a transition at some point in terms of, okay, now we're seeing who Justin Herbert really is looking for every time he steps back looking to pass. Palmer and McConkley, very reliable targets. McConkley does have the upside of big playability, though, and we saw that a few times. And his separation is on another level. So, I don't know. Josh Palmer, to me, I would say even right now, probably still the one. McConkley and Herbert still, working out and ironing out some details and some wrinkles to their game. But Josh Palmer looks really, really good. And I don't want everybody to forget him just because I'm really high on McConkley, and I do think McConkley ends up being a wide receiver 1 at some point. Josh Palmer's still a fantastic, at very minimum, wide receiver 2 for this team. And I do think he's going to have a really good year. Let's keep moving forward. J.K. Dobbins. Now, as of recording this video this morning, we were hearing a little bit more about J.K. Dobbins having to exit practice. I think it was on Saturday. I don't remember, which is definitely concerning. Okay, I'll say that J.K. Dobbins, his story has met the same tragic fate every single year. He looks great, but can't stay on the field. That doesn't change this year. He has to stay on the field. But I'm going to tell you right now, guys, the first couple of days of camp, watching him go through drills, watching him be utilized in every situation you could think of in terms of running back, passing, blocking, catching, whatever, like, he was just so good. So good. And what the biggest thing that stood out to me is his movement, man. The dude, there's a talent on Madden called Human Joystick, right? I think everybody knows about that, where it's just like it feels like they are so in tune with the movement that you're utilizing on the little joystick on your game controller. It feels like that with J.K. Dobbins, and it's something I wasn't expecting. I was like, okay, he's going to be taking it easy, right? He's probably lost a little bit of step, a little bit of speed because of those injuries stacking up on top of each other. But man, I'll tell you, in person, he looked insanely nimble. He looked insanely agile. He looked insanely fast. He was everything I was hoping to see and more, man. He looks like J.K. when he was healthy with the Ravens. And that's going to be the biggest storyline for him going forward. We don't know what's going on. I don't know if I've heard anything even, today on the Monday's practice as I'm recording, but about him coming back. But as far as I've seen, if he's on the field, this could be, in my opinion, and I'm going to go ahead and plant the flag now. If JK is healthy for majority of the season, he's a top 10 running back in this league. He's insanely, insanely good. And it was really cool to see all that in display in person. And what's even cooler is when you've got a dynamic in that running back room or at a position that really complements each other well. Because right now, it's really easy for me to say, hey, Gus Edwards is RB1. JK, just like the McConkley and Palmer situation, I think JK eventually, if he stays healthy, does take that one role. But right now, it really does feel like the 1A, the 1B, it lives and breathes just fine right now. Because Gus Edwards, to me, when we signed him, and I got to watch, a bunch of his tape or his highlights and stuff with Baltimore, he did feel like this ground pound, lean, mean tank of a running back. And that's what we got, right? He is going to be this big, and let me emphasize, big running back out there, just having his way, plowing through, 1 yards and 2 yard conversions. Like, he's going to be that guy. And it's so cool to have a guy like that on the roster. And it's different, guys. Let me tell you, it is different watching him play. But in watching him play, I also got to realize for myself, watching him practice, that he is more than just a tank. I watched him out there catching, pretty decently challenging passes. I saw him out there blocking. I saw him out there showing me some moves, man. He is deceptively fast. You think of a big running back, you think, okay, they're big, and they're mean and they're strong. They're gonna, force their will their way to extra yardage. But what I wasn't prepared for was seeing Gus at full speed. Just how fast that dude is. He is huge, and you wouldn't expect a man of his size to move that fast. He is awesome, and I think that's a big part of his game that's going to go underrated. It's going to go by fantasy football fans. It's going to go underappreciated, at least at first, until you start seeing, hey, Gus is catching 3-4 balls a game. Gus is out here, hitting the outside and getting 20-yard, carries. Like, it's happening every once in a while, because he is more than just, a glorified fullback. He is a running back, and he showed me a lot of proof that he's going to be doing very running back things. So Gus Edwards, J.K. Dobbins, very good 1-2 punch right now. And hopefully with Dobbins coming back soon, that duo can just get to work behind what's one of the most impressive offensive lines in football right now. Speaking of which, offensive lines and offensive linemen. I got to tell you, I got a question for you, Bolt fam. What the hell is Jordan McFadden? Jordan McFadden, some of the most crazy and confusing excerpts of excitement that I heard from the crowd while I was out there is when Jordan McFadden was lining up at fullback. Okay, there was one day that I remember seeing him and Justin Herbert. Herbert was snapping the ball to him over and over, letting McFadden carry, as a running back. And of course, this is a guard, right? This is a guard. Jim Harbaugh's gotten something up his sleeve, though, because watching Jordan McFadden in those situations tells me, holy crap, do we have ourselves a weapon to, again, convert on short yardage. But two, if he pans out to be like a really good blocker as well, there could be a Patrick Ricard effect out here. And that's something I read over the weekend. Ricard, I do think lineman to fullback could be another story out here. Because, dude, I got to tell you, there's this one play, there's a couple of plays on Saturday, I think, where McFadden was lining up at tight end. There was a time when he lined up wide, right? And they put him in motion. I was, again, just like Gus, just like Joe Alt, I was shocked at how athletic this guy is. He is fast. He is nimble. And to think that this big 300-pound human being could absolutely outrun anybody at my high school is insanity. It's insanity. It's insanity. And he looks like, I don't know, a secret weapon of the offense right now. I never would have guessed it. But in person, I'll tell you, I didn't film every single down. They spent a lot of time with this quote-unquote experiment at play. Jordan McFadden was out there at fullback a lot during, scrimmages and drives. He was out there a lot in individual drills with QB1, Justin Herbert, practicing as a fullback. What that means for the future, I'm not 100% sure. But if we enter the season with fullback on the roster and Jordan McFadden's name in that slot, I wouldn't be surprised. And honestly, we may actually have something really, really cool here with Jordan McFadden. That was one of my favorite things from training camp that we all dissected as fans out there. It was insane. Absolute insanity. Also, shout out to Cameron Dicker. By the way, thank you, Cameron, for getting a picture with me and NFL Mike. I don't know if you guys know who NFL Mike is. Huge TikToker. Definitely follow him. But we hung out all weekend, and we were like, hey, let's get a picture with Cameron Dicker. And he came up to us, and thank you. The awesome fan moment for me. And we are so lucky to have him. Let me just say this. I don't know how much I filmed of Cameron Dicker. I know I got a little bit. But this dude, I don't think I saw him miss out even once the entire weekend. This dude is just automatic. Right. And there were some instances where he was a good ways back. I don't know if the furthest I saw was like 40 or 50 yards, but it was really, 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 really good to feel like we've got an automatic kicker on this team. And he's definitely underappreciated at some points to think of how much we can rely on him as, compared to some other kickers we've had in the past in this franchise. All right. Moving on, rounding the corner here. Offensive line, I'm going to say right now, guys, looks so good. Okay, I'm no offensive line expert. You guys might want to talk to Steve Hagelin, guilty as charged. He was a lineman, right? I'm no lineman expert. But I will tell you that Joe Alt and Rashawn Slater and Zion Johnson, who's flipping huge right now, and Bradley Bozeman, who was out there looking awesome, by the way. Bradley Bozeman's so underappreciated. This line looks insanely good. And right now there's something going on. As of recording this video, it sounds like it's good. But when I was there in the weekend, Rashawn Slater exited, right? And they were later saying that he felt something and it was a precaution. They said there's gonna be, what did Coach say? He's just mentioning that they're gonna be overly precautious, right? And that's definitely something I want to see in training camp. Anyway, Rashawn Slater left like after, I don't know, like a half hour on the second day that I was there. And the Chargers came out with a new look with Joe Alt on the left side and Trey Pipkins on the right. And it, to me, already, in that instance, in that situation, told me, look at the depth on this line, man. Because that configuration of offensive linemen certainly didn't look terrible out there. They looked pretty dang good, right? Of course, I was wishing that they were getting more reps in at the positions that they were going to be in season. Like, Alt on the right and Pip at guard. But when push comes to shove, that configuration showed me they're prepared for these situations. They're prepared for something like this to go down. And we still looked good. We still looked great. A good freaking line. And again, now I'm feeling a lot better about it because this morning, again, I don't have all the details on it. It did sound like Rashawn Slater was back in practice. So it was, again, a precaution. But the depth on this line is insane. And when I say depth, I mean, I was noticing a bunch of guys out there doing really well. I mean, Alex Leatherwood actually looked pretty good to me. Again, I can't say for sure. I'm not an offensive line expert, but he looked good. Brendan Hymas. Of course, Jordan McFadden, even when he was playing offensive line and not fullback, or tight end, it all looked so good. And so, I don't know, when you watch the offensive line, you want to see them almost move like one organism, one unit, and they were doing just that, man. It feels good. It feels good to have a good offensive line, but as a fan who, doesn't understand offensive line play at a super deep level, for me to see something on the surface and to notice is actually a big deal. The offensive line, they're going to be something special. A couple other things before we wrap up the video. This is going to be a whole new offense. Tight end, fullback. I'm going to say this. There was one drill that they kept running that I was like, this is a new team, man. This is proof that this is a new team. They had a drill out there where it was just the quarterback. I think there was one or two linemen and the big boys, being the running backs and the tight ends. And they wanted to see how they looked in passing, right? So they ran these drills over and over and over again. No wide receivers, just the tight ends, just the running backs. They were doing that a lot in terms of blocking. I said in my video a couple days ago, but I saw Donald Parham involved in a lot of blocking drills. I saw the backups in Hines and Benson in a lot of blocking drills. But then I saw these passing drills as well, where they're putting a lot of time into those positions to not just be what they're advertised as, right, as blockers or whatever, but as every part of the offense that they can be a participant in. So the tight ends got a lot of reps in receiving. Will Dissly shocked me a couple of times with some of his receptions. I think it was Luke Benson that ended up shocking me the most from the depth tight ends in terms of their receiving. The Chargers are putting a lot of time into blocking and into receiving with those positions at running back and tight end, which definitely kind of tells you what we're in for. Another guy that I thought was going to be awesome, Dan Henley. Seeing him in person makes me feel like he's going to break out. His speed, his play recognition, his, I don't know what to call it, his awareness. His awareness, it all felt, I don't know, like he's been here a minute, right? It feels like maybe we could have done more with him last year. He looks very complete, especially in coverage. So I don't know. I just wanted to point that out. I can't give you specifics, but just as a whole, my vibe with Dan Henley felt very good, and that he is probably going to break out if he sees an opportunity. And there was a point where, of course, Junior Colson wasn't out there, where I felt like, okay, he's getting more opportunity. We'll have to see if that happens and translates in season. But he looks so good that it's going to be hard to keep him off the field, I believe. So, I don't know. Another thing to keep an eye on, Derwin James, something that we're already kind of anticipating, we got to see in training camp. He was just everywhere. You're looking for that, ace up your sleeve, the secret weapon on defense. Derwin James was absolutely fantastic. Definitely not surprising. Definitely not surprising. And I will also mention that Joey Bosa, Joey Bosa, Khalil Mack, all the edge rushers looked really, really good. I didn't grab a segment for it, but I already kind of talked about it in my last video if you guys want to get a little bit more in-depth there. All right. Finally, Brandon Rice. You guys wanted some hype on Brandon Rice? Well, here it is. Brandon Rice looks really good, dudes. Of the wide receivers that weren't like the main, the top four, right? With McConkley, Palmer, Johnston, and Chark. Like those guys, outside of those guys, I think Brandon Rice impressed me the most. Not to say there were other plays that were impressive. Cornelius Johnson had a couple of ridiculous grabs in traffic, right? But Brandon Rice, I don't know what to think right now, because I'm wondering why he's not getting talked about more. Because in person, this guy looked as reliable as a wide receiver as you could ask for. Like, his route running was awesome. His separation, which is something that he's criticized a lot about, was really nice. And his hands were incredible at times. Like, Brandon Rice, to me, of the depth wide receivers, really, really did stand out. And I'm not saying this as someone who's like, oh, it's Jerry Rice's son, of course we're all rooting for him. Like, no. As someone who was at training camp, watched all these guys and saw all the things that, they had to offer and who's going to stand out and who's going to be earning a spot, like, Brandon Rice really, really, really did stand out to me. And as right now, it's going to be pretty hard unless something drastic happens or he falls off a cliff or whatever in terms of his production or his camp. As of right now, I would be shocked to learn that he doesn't make the roster if that ends up being the case later on, because he looked really, really good to me. And honestly, I wouldn't be shocked if he was more involved in the offense too with what I saw. He was great. That's all I can say. I hope I have some footage out there I can show you guys, because man, I was thoroughly impressed. And speaking of wide receivers, to kind of round this out, a couple of things that I really, if you guys are wondering, because everyone's always like, well, what are some things you're worried about? What are some things you're worried about? Here are a couple of things. So this one kind of counts. Okay, we'll say it's a light worry. QJ, to me, and this is probably the best way I can put it, is treading water, right? He's treading water. It feels like he's had a really good, at least when I was there, he had way more good than bad. It's really easy for fans to say, oh, well, no, he's a bust, he's this, he's that, he's still dropping passes, and to dismiss all the good he's doing because of his crappy rookie season. But I'm going to tell you right now, I saw a lot of really good things from Quentin Johnston. I really did. He had an incredible touchdown via Easton Stick. He had another really good touchdown where he used his hands to bring in a pass by Justin Herbert. Like, he was pretty great, I would say. If you were to take a consistent, like an overall arching look at that weekend, like, he was great. But the reason I say he's treading water is because there were some drops that were concerning. And this morning, I did have to stop and think, dang, dude, Q, we're making good progress. And then we see something like that, and you're gonna see some thoughts about it on Twitter. And it was a pretty dramatic dropped touchdown from Justin Herbert, not even really defended by Christian Fulton this morning. It felt like it was just a blatant drop in the end zone. That got people really, really worried. I'm going to say that Quentin Johnston, he still has work to do. And if you guys are looking for him to prove that he's putting in the work to get better, today after that clip was posted, I did see a clip of him staying afterwards working on the jugs machine, putting in the time, putting in the work to help that aspect of his game. But other aspects of his games, I will say that he looks a lot better. His separation looked really good. His speed was on point. His hands at times, yes, his hands looked a lot better. Right? But it's going to be those clips of him dropping the football that you're going to see the most on social media. I'm here to tell you right now, those are something concerning. They are. I'm not going to sweep it under the rug. But don't let that wipe away the good things that he did at camp too. He actually did have a really, really decent camp, at least in the days that I was there. All right. Then finally, the last thing that I'm kind of worried about. This was a good play by them, but I'm a little bit worried about the secondary, just a little bit. I think the secondary is going to need some more work in terms of team build, in terms of coaching, as things go on. I do think there's some guys out there that really have my confidence. Asante Samuel, Derwin James, of course, Alohi Gilman. Those guys looked fantastic. But outside of that, I just don't know. Tony Jefferson looked pretty good to me. JT Woods was fine. Cam Hart had a pretty good play before I got there, but outside of that, I don't know, man. I don't know. It's going to be a part of this team that we have to pay attention to and hope that they can figure out before kickoff, because that could end up being the run defense of the past few years. And what I mean by that is that's how you attack the Chargers. You want to attack the Chargers, you run on them the last couple of years. This year, it could be you want to attack the Chargers, you pass on them this year. We might see a little bit of help in that category because of the superb pass rush that we have, but I'd like to see a little bit more from the position. Okay, cool. Well, guys, thank you so much for joining the severely burnt and recovering director. It's been an awesome experience. Hopefully this video hits some notes for you guys in building that hype and excitement for the season, and more to come. Like just this morning, again, we started seeing Chargers practice in pads and getting hyped about the potential of the team with that sample size, and we're going to see a whole lot more of it this week. So get hyped, man. We should have another video coming out Wednesday going over some of the stuff that we learned about the Chargers in their first few days in full pads. So should be a lot of fun. Well, guys, again, shout out to everybody out there showing me a good time. Of course, Dan and Jake, you guys were awesome. Senior Snappy out there, one of the funniest guys that you'll meet. We had Gooch out there. We had all sorts of personalities out there via the Chargers, man. Thank you, everybody, so much for all the love. Fabian, thank you so much, too, for saying, hey, I know we had an awesome time. Thunder Dome. I can't possibly go. I'm gonna get what's the hook from the Academy Awards, or whatever. Like I couldn't possibly. Thank you everybody so much. It meant so much to me. All the love and appreciation, support you guys showed me. I must have signed like 200 things, like jerseys and helmets. I must have taken hundreds of pictures. The love absolutely was felt, and I cannot tell you guys how much it means to me and my family and everyone that while we're all out there absorbing what is an excellent and fun time with the Chargers and in training camp, that I was able to feel that kind of support too. So you guys are awesome. Thank you so much. If you guys like what you saw here, hit us up with a like and sub on your way out. We'll see you next time. And as always, bolt up and stay frosty. Wow, what a weekend, man. What a weekend. Stay hydrated.